Hi, everyone. So we are starting out Unit 3 with being able to write equations from graphs, which is the opposite of what you learned in the last unit, which was you were graphing the equation we gave you. Now you're writing the equation and not having to graph the line. So here's our learning target. I can write linear equations from a graph. First, given a graph, can you find its slope? That's pretty important, right? We should be able to do that from Unit 2. Can you identify the y-intercept? Because if you can do those things, then you can write an equation in y equals mx plus b form. Remember, m stands for slope and b stands for y-intercept. So that part shouldn't be too hard. And then we actually write the equation in slope-intercept form. That's this form here, okay? And the new thing we're really learning is, can we convert that form to standard form, okay? So let's go ahead and look at first learning the new thing, which is converting from one form to another form, and then we'll actually look at graphs. So you can see here, I put it in the box, we're converting from slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, to standard form, ax plus by equals c. So in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is look at what are some characteristics of the standard form. Standard form doesn't have slope in it or y-intercept, okay? So you do notice, however, that the x and the y are on the same side. That's pretty important. You can see they're both here on the left side. And that's not the case in y equals mx plus b. A few other important things to notice, that the a value, that value right in the front of the x, must be positive. Okay. Also in standard form, I don't know if you've ever noticed these, but they never have any fractions or decimals. They're always whole numbers. Okay, so keep that in mind when we're actually doing our converting. So now let's look at two examples where we are converting to standard form. They're already in y equals mx plus b. So our first step is if your equation has a fraction, which ours does not, but let's go ahead and write the step down. Our second equation will. If your equation has a fraction, we're going to multiply both sides by the denominator of the fraction. So if you don't remember what the word denominator means the bottom of the fraction, okay? So we do not have to do that in our example 1. So we can skip that step. We don't have any fractions. Lucky us. So now we're in the second step, which is we either need to add or subtract the x from both sides. Since ours is a positive x, we are going to subtract the 3x from both sides. So I'm going to subtract it here. And rather than putting it underneath the y, on the left side, we know we can't subtract an x from a y, so we're just going to write it in front, subtracting 3x. The y is positive still, so it'll have a plus in front of it. So let's see what we have. 3x minus 3x is 0. So now we have negative 3x plus y equals, and all that's left on the right side is a negative 5. And let's see if we are done. When we look at our characteristics, we don't have any fractions. Yay! But our a value is not positive. You can see it right here. It's a negative 3. So that's where our last step comes into play. The last step says if a is negative, we are going to multiply both sides by negative 1. Because by multiplying by 1, it doesn't change the number, but it will change the sign. So let's look at what that looks like. We're going to multiply both sides by negative 1. I just do the whole equation in parentheses. That makes it a little bit easier. So negative 1 times negative 3x is positive 3x. Negative 1 times y is negative 1y. And negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. Now we have finished converting to standard form because there are no fractions. And now We can check that off our list. The A value is now positive. Okay, that one wasn't too bad. Now we're going to have to deal with fractions in example number 2. So let's go ahead and give that a try. I'm going to use our checklist. Right now, we're not quite there. So let's look at step 1. If your equation's a fraction, multiply both sides by the denominator, which is the bottom of the fraction. So we're multiplying both sides by 2. The whole equation. When I say both sides, I mean the whole equation. So it's like distribution. You're distributing to everything. 2 times y is 2y. Now, 2 times negative 3 halves, if you get confused with fractions, remember your calculator is super helpful for this. So let's look what we can do about that. I'm going to go ahead and clear this real quick. Okay, or I'll just type it in. It was 2 times, and remember you can hit Control Divide to create a fraction, and our fraction was negative 3 over 2. So I forgot to put the negative. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the front and add my negative in. This is the negative right here below the 3. And when we multiply them, we get negative 3. I'm not sure why mine showed up like that. Let's double check. 2 times negative, and make a fraction, 3 halves. Just double checking. It is negative 3. I'm not sure why it combines it into one fraction, but that is correct. It is negative 3. So let's go ahead and pull that up. When we multiply 2 to negative 3 halves, it was negative 3, and it does have an x, so it's negative 3x. Don't forget our equal sign is right here. And 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. So looking at that, we're not doing too bad. Now there's no fractions. That was the goal, right? So when we multiplied those in our calculator, we were hoping that there would be no fractions afterwards, and that's exactly what happened. Now we have done this step. We are on step 2. Add or subtract the x to both sides. Now, since it is a negative 3x, we are adding 3x. Remember, we always do the opposite. The reason why I'm putting it on the left side of the y is because remember in standard form, if we look at it up here, the x is first and the y is second. So I just pushed it in front of the y there. We don't need to put the plus because there's nothing to add it to in the front, but we can put a plus here because they are both positive. Negative 3 and positive 3 add up to 0. All that's left on the right side is negative 8. Now let's check. We did this part. If the a value is negative, multiply both sides by negative 1. Remember, the a value is the value in the front. It is not negative, so we don't need to do step 3. Okay, so our final answer is 3x plus 2y equals negative 8. It is in standard form, no fractions, and the first number, the 3, is positive. All right, guys, I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to make a second video for the second part of the notes. Okay. This is a video on how to convert to standard form.